My first memory of Swansea Grand Theatre was coming here in 1977. I'd been to dance lessons with Leighton and Gloria Jones up on the High Street, and my gran brought me here, my nana, as she's more commonly known and more affectionately known, I suppose, to me. And I didn't know where we were going. And I was more interested in the buses in the depot on the corner because my Uncle Neil and my Uncle Lynn were both car dealers. So I had a great interest in sort of vehicles and things. When she brought me here, we went up to this thing called the box office, and she bought 2 tickets for a place called the Gods. I mean, all completely new to me. And it was to see a pantomime. And we went outside of the theatre, and there was like a square column with hard stone steps going right up to the Gods. And the Gods were just sort of, they weren't planks as such, they were kind of just long areas that you parked your backside on. And I remember it being mind-blowing. I remember it being magical. The colours, the sound, the people laughing. I just was mesmerised. It was the most amazing place I had ever been in my entire life. And with most memories of myself at that age, it's linked to my nana. She opened this world up to me. And it sounds weird to say, I suppose I had not so much a premonition, that's a weird word, but I kind of knew that whatever I was seeing that was making me happy and everyone happy in the theatre, I knew that I wanted to do that. And I was already doing dance. So for me, it felt like a eureka moment, if you like. And thanks to Ian Parsons, a conversation I was having with him recently, I think he's unlocked the date, the actual date of me seeing it, because I know it wasn't Christmas, and my birthday is in March, and apparently the Panto ended on the 19th of March, so I'm pretty certain it was the 18th of March 1977. I think it's fair to say the Panto then was my continuing interaction with this beautiful theatre, and I saw some of the greats here. I saw the wonderful Barry Howard. I saw, what's the double act? Little and Large. They were absolutely phenomenal. I always thought that Eddie Large was a really, really funny man. Bobby Crush. And years later, actually, I was on the same bill as Bobby Crush up in Leicester. I was doing Guys and Dolls at the Leicester Haymarket. And we were doing an evening for the Terence Higgins Trust. And I was very proud to be a part of it. And I saw Bobby Crush backstage because he was doing his piano bit, and just a gloriously happy man. You couldn't fail to smile when you were around him. And I said, years ago, I said, I saw you in Panto in Swansea. And he said, oh, you saw my dick at the Grand. He just burst out laughing. Because in a sense I had, but not in the sense that he was hinting at. But yeah, pantomime was what drew me to this place. It's a funny thing with the Grand, though. I feel so incredibly passionate about it as a building and about the people that I've sort of passed throughout the years coming in and out. People like Jan and Andrew and Robert and Caroline, and in the years gone by, Gary Isle, and it was almost impressive that they worked here at this theatre, and I just couldn't wait to step on the stage and do something here. And that started with a show that I did with Gosainon College. We did, like Tonya Smith and myself, did some presenting in a particular show which we loved. We wrote all these hairy old gags, and they went down terribly, but we thought we were hilariously funny. And then I did a play here where I played my first ever romantic lead, because I'd lost a lot of weight then, and I met my wife on that play. Actually, prior to that, Michelle and myself had done Chicago, the musical, with Chrysalis Theatre Company, and she'd played Velma Kelly, and I played Fred Casely. So we'd met on that, and then 10 years went by, and we met when we did Oyster Catchers, which was a book by Iris Gower, and it was adapted for stage by the late, great, and my dear friend Helen Griffin. And we fell in love on that play, Michelle and myself, not Helen and myself, though I've always loved Helen, but obviously I married Michelle. My other memories of coming to the Grand would be linked to the wonderful, again late and great, Frank Vickery. I saw many of his plays here, and to the point where I was so in awe of the people that were coming out into the auditorium. People like Lorraine, John and Frank Vickery and Christine and all these incredible performers, because I'd just been laughing my head off at them with a full audience here at Swansea Grand. And there they were in the bar, and they seemed almost untouchable to me. So when I got my chance to perform professionally on the Swansea Grand stage, which was with Oyster Catchers, it was a real coming of age for me. I was stood on a stage where I'd seen great performances all those years. And actually, one with, I was tweeting Kev Johns this the other day. He saw Richard Todd here, and I saw Richard Todd here in a play called The Business of Murder. And I remember it because, well, how could you not when you're seeing the actor from the Dam Busters, you know? And there he was, live in front of me. And I think I was pretty close to being in the front row. I've been in the front row a long time, a lot of times in this theatre. And there he was. And I thought, wow, big, big stars play this venue. So when I stood on the stage, there was a sense of, wow, I've made it from out there to here. I'm no longer the audience, I'm a cast member. And it was mind-blowing, really, is the only way I can describe it. And I was kind of overawed by it, and had to give myself a little bit of a talking to. And then, of course, combine that with falling in love with Michelle on the stage at the Grand Theatre. And, you know, when you do shows here at the Grand, sometimes the audience get involved. They certainly do with players like Frank Vickery, because they recognise themselves, basically. And we were doing this romantic scene, Michelle and myself, and they knew that my character, Will, owned the shoe shop. They'd all read the book by Iris Gower. So when these line of shoes flew in, you could hear people going, oh, yeah, here we go now, the shoes are coming in, you watch behind now. We could hear it plainly, like they were completely unaware that, you know, we could hear them. And in this love scene between Michelle and myself, oh, I feel terrible saying this, you know, as an actor, you bite the diction, you bite the words. And on the last night of it, I went to say something, and this massive, and I mean huge, piece of spittle flew out of my mouth. And I saw Michelle go like this, and it sort of landed right here. And I literally heard about 40 or 50 audience members go, oh, it's terrible, he spat at it, did you see that then? He spat at it then. And I hadn't done it on purpose, but, you know, literally, I was in the wings just dying with laughter. And Michelle was, when she saw the funny side of it and wiped the spit off her face. But yeah, you know, they were there with us. They were almost beyond an audience, they were almost extended family. I mean, some of them actually were, but I mean all the audience members. And the thing about this auditorium is that it's shaped like a classic sort of horseshoe. So it constantly feels like when you're in the middle of the stage or where you're on the stage, it feels like it's giving you a hug, like it's welcoming you to the space. So I've always looked forward to any chance that, not even to perform on the stage, just any chance I can take to stand on that stage is just utterly beautiful. And when I came to see things like, I see a lot of comedy, and I've seen the greatest Ken Dodd. I was in the front row for Ken Dodd on my 40th birthday almost 10 years ago now. I know I don't look it day over 49. And we were sat in the front row, and he picked on me all night. And in between the acts, in between him being on, he had different acts coming on, and whilst they were on, I was just thinking, I've stood on the stage, I've performed where Ken Dodd is standing now, and it's amazing. It's truly, truly the greatest feeling in the world. I suppose one of my greatest achievements for me is co-writing with Helen Griffin the play Goon Bandage, An Evening with Harry Secombe, and playing Harry Secombe. And basically how that came about was that I'd auditioned for a play called Ying Tong about the Goons and about Spike Milligan's creative genius and madness in a way. And I went up and auditioned for it, and they said, we'll let you know in a couple of weeks' time. And I said, well, look, I've got a commitment that I've got to give an answer to later on this afternoon. And the director went, well, we haven't seen everyone that we need to see, but can you give us at least until tomorrow? And I said, I can't. I said, I've got to let them know by 4:30 today, but I wanted to come in because I'm really passionate about the Goons. I've loved them all my life. I love Harry Secombe. I love the fact that he comes from my hometown. And he said, okay, go outside for a sec, we'll call you back in. And I went back in and he said, okay, job's yours. And I thought, yes, fantastic. So went to the West Yorkshire Playhouse, rehearsed Ying Tong, played it there, went into the West End. And when it came off the West End, I just thought, I've got all this material and all this knowledge about this man. It seems insane to let it go. So I spoke to Helen Griffin about it, and she said, I think it's a great idea, we should do a one-man show about it. And I hadn't written anything then, so I definitely needed someone with Helen's writing skill to shape and mould the play and to give it the directions. And what I had were the stories that I wanted to tell. And we made a pretty awesome team, actually. And Phil Clark came on board, and he's just one of my favourite directors, because Phil is the type of person who will let you hang yourself. He'll go, here's the rope, go hang yourself. He will let you do anything to try and find the right moment, the right thing. And he's glorious. Peter Doran's another one like that. And anyway, we went to see Sybil Crouch at the Taliesin, and we were thinking, okay, this is the big sell. And I finished talking about how there hadn't been a play about him. He was from Swansea. Why isn't there a statue of him in Swansea and all that sort of stuff? And Helen and myself wanted to write this play. I was going to be in it, and Phil was going to direct it. And literally, at the end of my final word, she opened a diary and went, right, when are we doing it? I thought, wow, we're on. So she commissioned Helen and myself jointly to write it. That took about 6 months, I think, roughly. And then we were on. And I was at the Taliesin playing one of my heroes in a one-man show about his life and about his relationship with the Goons, but in particular with Spike Milligan. You know, how they met was so glorious. You know, it was in Tunisia, and Secombe was sitting in this little tent at the bottom of this hill, and suddenly there was an almighty bang, and this gun, this huge artillery gun on wheels, flew over the top of the tent and landed about 6 feet away from them and rolled down the hill. And so Secombe says, the flaps of the tent opened, and Spike Milligan poked his head through and said, has anyone seen a gun? And Secombe's answer was, what colour? You know, it was like a match made in heaven. It was the nearest thing to a platonic love affair that you could have, the love between those two. They just adored each other. And I just thought, wow, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this on stage. I was going to do a tour of it. And on the last night at the Taliesin, my stage manager, Richard Balshaw, who was doing everything. He was putting my wig on. He was doing everything, bar, brushing my teeth. He was incredible, and thank God for him. I just thought there was something slightly off about him on the last night. I couldn't figure out what it was. And I said, what's happening? And he said, nothing. Have a good show tonight. And I thought, okay, well, maybe something personal, I shouldn't ask. And then he came back and he went, how did that go for you? And I went, I think that's the best night we've done here so far. And he went, good. There's 20 Secombes waiting for you in the bar. The colour, literally, I could feel it draining from my face. Myra's sister was there, you know, really close relatives of his, and it's just, I'm almost welling up with the thought of it now, because I knew that I had their seal of approval. They were so glorious to me, and so supportive of the show, and they loved it. And they loved the moment when I talked about falling in love with Myra. They say love's a lottery. Well, that night I had the winning ticket, and we were dancing to Moonlight Serenade in the ballroom on Swansea Pier. And they loved that, you know. And Harry and Myra were deeply devoted to each other. And because of my love for him and for his family, I met him actually at Welsh College years before, and he gave me my degree. And my nana, who had passed away by that point, and I felt her loss pretty badly that day. When I went up to get my degree, I was crying, and he put his arms around me and gave me a mighty hug, and there was a massive roar from the audience because they could see I was a bit overwhelmed by something, but they wouldn't know it was loss. But he gave me the greatest advice for playing him ever. I was at Welsh College, and Myra, I'd been introduced to Lady Myra, and she said, where are you from? I said, Swansea boy. She went, oh, Harry! Across the room like this, you know. No airs and graces. These were good Swansea people, you know, rooted. And he came across, and from Swansea, oh, yeah, what about then? I said, oh, right, okay. He said, singer? I said, I do sing. I said, mainly an actor. He said, hey, do you know how to do 8 shows? I said, no. He said, keep it in the nose, boy, keep it in the nose. And I thought, that's it. Harry Secombe, I harked back to that memory when I played him, and I thought, that's it. He's just given me the greatest advice ever on playing him. It was incredible. And it's one of those projects that I'd like to revisit one day. And I can do right up until until my 60s, early 70s if I wanted to. But actually, what I'd love to do is I'd love to see another actor perform it. So watch this space. When you talk about a labour of love, that's a labour of love. Going, I'm in the shoes of my hero. Do you know what I mean? I'm talking to people about something that I love, someone that I love, and they're just sitting there. I would describe it as a warm bath of a show. There's nothing too controversial in it, though he does visit Spike in St. Luke's Hospital and, at down moments in it. He does speak to Peter Sellers on the phone, has him on and stuff like that, But at its heart, that's exactly what it is about. A man with heart. A man who is fortunate to have lived the life that he lived. And he constantly lived, and all performers do as far as I'm concerned, I know I'm one of them, he constantly lived with that fear of going, someone's going to knock on that door in a minute and say, right, you've had it all now, we want it all back. Harry Secombe thought that. Well, if I ever think that, I think to myself, I'm in great company. During the pandemic, we got a call from Richard Mylan, who I've known for years. But I've known Richard Mylan as a disco dancer in a all-in-one leopard leotard, dancing against him on a Sunday morning in the disco competitions at the Dolphin Hotel in Swansea. But that's a whole different story. And I bet you any money he hasn't told you that. But he remembers me as being this graceful ballroom dancer who used to compete against him and lose the disco competitions because there was nobody like Richard Mylan. He was the most natural dancer I'd ever seen in the world. And he'd come to us with this idea for the Grand Theatre, and Michelle and myself feel that the Grand Theatre is like a home. So anyone mentions it and you go, what was that, sorry? And he talked about how there should be a producing house here. And we've always felt that, and I've spoken about it to Helen Griffin many times, and Helen Griffin tried many times. But he seemed really determined, and so he reached out to the council and then ended up having a meeting with them with Steve Balsamo, arguably one of Swansea's modern music great legends. He's the type of person you go, I'm in the room with Steve Balsamo, he's cool, he's brilliant, he's wonderful. And Rich is that person as well. And obviously Michelle is an incredible ball of energy and knows her business and knows what she wants to do. And we came up with Grand Ambition, which the name was given to us actually by Rachel O'Riordan, who was the Sherman Theatre Artistic Director and now is the Lyric Hammersmith Theatre Artistic Director. They're very lucky to have her. But basically what we want to do is we want to inspire people to find their pathway back to this theatre, or inspire new pathways to the theatre, bring in first-timers, bring in people who've been coming here for 90 years, and put on work that they want to see. And the work is going to be through the Swansea lens, and that means we're going to look for Swansea writers to write stories about Swansea. We're going to get a person from Swansea to director, and we're going to get Swansea actors. We're going to utilise this building and the Bramwyn Hall in any way that we can and make this space somewhere that people want to go. They want to go and see home-produced work. So, for example, the Harry Secombe play that I talked about earlier, you know, that could have a life here. It's a Swansea story. It's a Swansea actor, Swansea director, everything like that. But we're looking for new, fresh voices. Now, when I see new, fresh voices, people think, well, you're looking for young people. We're looking for every age range of people. If you're interested in it, we're interested in you. We want you here in this building, this glorious, glorious building. We want you to feel as excited about it as we do. This building is your theatre. You pay for it. It's your theatre. Come and love it. Come and love it as much. We're giving you the opportunity to love it as much as we love it.